Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Golden Guna TV. I know it's been a while, guys. I've just been very swarmed with work and other commitments, but I am back with some content and back after Arsenal's great victory yesterday against Burnley. So guys, obviously, you know, we're going to talk about the major talking points of yesterday's 5-0 win. But before we get into that, please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. Okay guys, without further ado, let's get right into yesterday's game, and I think we can simply call it Arsenal's turf mode demolition. I think it was such I would almost call it a perfect performance, in the sense that we never looked like we got out of, I would say, third gear, but we never looked like conceding, but we always looked like scoring. And I think that's a great way to have balance in the team, you know. You don't have to always play scintillating football, and I think this is what we starting to see of Mikel Arteta's evolution of the team. We know last season we were all blitzing teams, you know, very early on. Then you look at the beginning of this season, how we've been more controlled and measured, and both those kind of approaches did well until they didn't. You know, last season we led the title race for so long. We were really blitzing teams, and until we ran out of legs, and that, excuse me, in my ultimate opinion, cost us. And then this season, we've kind of given up maybe as much attacking impetus and goal scoring for the control element. And now what I'm starting to see is that we now have full control of games, but the players look a lot more free. So I think that's a huge testament to what not only Arteta is doing, but also the players and the coaching staff and what they did and how they flipped the switch over in Dubai. And look, I think a lot of us as fans made a big, not us as fans only, but you know, media, rivals, made it seem catastrophic when we lost those two games, because obviously, you know, we're looking at the points difference between City and Liverpool at the time and thinking, okay, will Arsenal be able to beat Liverpool, you know, when we played them at the Emirates in the league? But if you had looked, for example, at our previous record against Liverpool, you know, we would have seen that we've actually done well against them, so we should have been a bit more confident. But obviously, you know, there was a bit of doubts in the team whether we'll still be in the title race, and now I think you can ask most fans and they'll tell you that they clearly feel that we are in the race. And I'm happy with the position that we currently are in. We are playing really good football, but I still don't think we're at our peak. I still don't think we're even out of third gear yet. You know, I think as we carry on with the rest of the season, I think we'll see the players still continue to put in some great performances. And look, people might say, look, you just won 5-0. How can you say that your team is not, you know, at their best? But honestly speaking, you know, if Martinelli's at his best, I think he should get on the score sheet yesterday. Not necessarily that he had chances to, but you would think that if Martinelli's at his best, he gets a couple of goals, you know, especially against a team like Burnley, and even last week against West Ham that was so open. You know, we've won 6-0 and 5-0, but Martinelli hasn't scored in either one of those games, you know, so that's what I'm talking about. So look, overall, I'm very happy with the performance yesterday. I think that we really showed a good level-headedness, you know. We just beat Liverpool on a high from that. Then it was like, can you back it up against West Ham? We did that, and then it was like, okay, now let's try and start making this a consistent thing. And I think we did that perfectly. The scoreline is not the most important thing to me, even though I'm very happy with it. It's really putting a team to the sword that we should put to the sword. But it's more that we're getting the job done in full control. It's even allowing Arteta to make changes. I think a lot of us as fans will be happy to know that if we can kill games off in the first 60 minutes, you know, and with the Champions League that we're in now, I don't think a lot of fans would be happy with the Champions League exit, as opposed to maybe last season getting knocked out of Europa League, for example. Us as Arsenal fans want to progress in the Champions League, and I think winning games early in both competitions, the league and the Champions League, allows for more rest and rotation to sustain both these kind of fights on both fronts. So, look guys, yesterday's performance, like I said, I am ecstatic. I'm going to get into, you know, some of my thoughts on the players, on the performance. You know, there were still questions about how fluid we are, so I'm going to get into all of that. And look, basically, I'm just wanting to start the video by saying that I'm very happy with the way we performed yesterday. Happy that the goals are spread. You know, there's no rumors or talks now of, oh, Arsenal need a striker, this, that, and the other. when your team is scoring loads of goals, I'm not saying we don't need a striker. I think a traditional number 9 is good as a plan B. But I think that the way the team's performing now shows you, look, funny enough, you see this thing with Havertz and Trossard playing. It's literally both systems in one. Because when you have Havertz up front, interchanging with Trossard, you kind of get and see what Arsenal would look like playing with a proper number 9 that holds up the ball, and links up play. But the Trossard up at number 9 and Havertz in the 8, you kind of see that false 9, traditional way we've been playing under Arteta over the past 18 months. So, yeah, guys, look, like I said, I'm not carry on about this too much. I think it was a great performance. I'm happy with a lot of the players. I'm happy that picked up no injuries, kept a clean sheet. Most importantly, good for goal difference. And yeah, we'll talk about some fluidity questions that we've been having over the past couple of weeks. Before the Dubai camp and now. And then also I'll give my player ratings and my thoughts on Arteta, etc. Obviously, guys, earlier in the season we had a lot of fans debating online, and on different platforms saying, are Arsenal fluid enough? Do we have the goals in us? Has Arteta changed us or made us too rigid that we won't score goals? And I think, I read some comments, earlier in the season where people were saying that maybe Arteta was just so upset at the way we let the title go last season that the changes he's made has been made to make us a bit more, or give us a bit more longevity within the title race, but to also make us a bit more street smart, not realizing that you don't win the title in December. So what's the point in blitzing every team by December, So I don't know, I don't want to say Arteta knew or foresaw this happening exactly like this, but I think there was a plan of used to be like, let's try reserve some energy, and when it's time for things to really start to kick in, we are able to do that. And look, we can't speak about fluidity problems, guys. We've scored 21 goals in the last 5 games, only conceding 2. I think that just shows that we are scoring goals from everywhere. Goals are spread around. You've got a couple players hitting, 3 or 4 goals in this run, your Sakas, your Trossards, older guys looking back with some assists, getting Havertz involved with the goals. Our centre-backs even over this run. Gabriel, I think he's got about 3 goals in the past 5 games. He's outstanding for a centre-back. So, look, I think it's only been 5 wins in a row. Look, speak to me and ask me really how I feel about the title race literally before we play City. Because our next 4 games, I think, before City, if I'm not mistaken, in the league are Newcastle at home, Sheffield United away, Brentford at home, and Chelsea away. Look, I'm not saying they are givens, but we play 3 of those 4 games away. At home. And the only away game, with all due respect to Sheffield United, just like Burnley, we should be going out there and getting a comprehensive win. And I don't mean comprehensive in a scoreline. If we go there and get a solid 2-0, shut them out, they've got no shots on target, low XG, like we've been seeing in our past 3 games, I'm happy. That's a proper performance. If we go there and beat them 5-0, I'm just as happy. But I do think that we can beat Newcastle at home. We can beat Brentford at home, and I think we definitely can beat Chelsea at home. And it's not me being arrogant, because Chelsea played really well yesterday against Man City. But I think we need to also make use of their home ground advantage. I think if you look at it since the start of the year, if you take those 5 games we just played in our next 5, we've played away from home against Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Burnley, Sheffield United, and Man City, right? And we've picked up wins against 3 of those 5 so far. You would think that if we can get a win against Sheffield away from home and win our other games before the City game, we don't have to beat City. That's the sort of thing, guys. We don't always have to try and win. For example, City dropping points yesterday. I'm not saying that you now have to win, like not winning every game is not important, but I don't foresee the title race going down to, in my opinion, the last day. That's just how I see it. I think someone will win the title maybe 2 games the most, like literally game week 36, the title might be decided, like the earliest in my opinion. I don't see any of the teams falling off. But with that being said, I think Liverpool have a game where they won't win. I'm not saying they're going to lose, still within them. So do Arsenal, and City had theirs yesterday against Chelsea. So look, guys, in terms of, like I said, in terms of the fluidity issues, I think going into our next set of games, I'm excluding the Champions League. If you're looking at the league, I expect us to continue this goal scoring run of form, because we will be playing teams that are a bit more open. Newcastle won't just, well, maybe they will, but I don't think they will sit back and with 2 banks of 4, I don't think Brentford either, and I don't think Chelsea either. So we will have space against those teams. And obviously Sheffield, I think they'll probably be the most defensive team that we face, but I think we will have to work around each team according to their strengths and weaknesses. And I do think we can pick up maximum points because I do think that we are playing a system that is allowing us to ask more questions of the opposition. You know, we're having players moving and interchanging with positions like Ben White inverting, Saka putting out a bit more wide, Odegaard dropping deeper, Trossard and Havertz interchanging. You know, there's a lot of movement up front and, well, even in the midfield, even from defense, like I said with White, which is just going to give opposition teams and managers more to think about, which I think ultimately is the way you're going to go and beat teams. Because you can't always rely, like City, you can't always rely on that style of play like you saw yesterday to win you the game. Sometimes you might just have to woof a long ball in or take some shots from outside of the box or whatever it is. So I think with Arsenal, the more we can ask opposition teams questions, the better for us. And I think that will just bode well for the remainder of the season. So yes, guys, let me know in the comments, do you think that this was all down to Arteta's foresight and good man management, that we announced fluid at, in my opinion, the correct time, which is the business end of the season? Or do you think it's just the players went to Dubai, you know, got refreshed and they just, you know, more energized? Or is it a combination of both? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, guys. Like I said, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. Okay, guys, I'm just going to touch on some of my standout players very quickly. I'm not going to go into too much depth because, you know, we had a great team performance overall. So, you know, it would be unjust to me just to praise certain players too extensively when I think it was a collective performance. But there were those that stood out for me. And I'm going to start with my man of the match yesterday. Ultimately, my man of the match in the past 2 games, it's been Martin Odegaard. I think Odegaard is looking back to his best, and I think the guy's name on Twitter, I might butcher this. I think it's no new thing on Twitter. He was saying, you know, how dropping Odegaard into more of a deeper 6-8 hybrid as opposed to pushing him up front in an 8-10 hybrid might see the more creative spark out of Odegaard, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. Because with White interchanging and inverting, and, you know, he's moving so much, it's forcing Odegaard to also move more. Odegaard might need to drop deep to collect the ball so that it allows White to push wide and Saka to move more central, and vice versa. So I think definitely we're seeing a little change in Odegaard's positioning from Arteta, and I think that's allowing him to receive the ball at almost the build-up stage with Rice, but, you know, allowing him a bit more space and time, you know, because when you collect the ball in your, let's say your final, let's say your half to the center circle, it's maybe not as, the pressure's not as intense as when it's close to the opposition's box. So he's got a bit more time, and you saw yesterday, with time and space, Odegaard can unlock any defense, and I have to give him a lot of credit for that. His work rate, guys, like I always say, with Odegaard, that's my biggest thing. You know, when people say to me, you know, and they always compare, like, oh, Ozil was a great player, and I never dispute that. But you never see Ozil, when he's playing poorly, still working hard. When Ozil wasn't playing well, his entire performance stunk. He would be an ineffective player. At least with Odegaard, you know, if he's not creating or scoring, whatever, he still gets on the ball, but he still works his socks off. And we saw that yesterday. 5-0 up, guys. Odegaard is still pressing the defense, still moving the ball, still running. And I think that's a proper captain's performance. You know, we need to understand that Odegaard is not Vieira, he's not Tony Adams. So he's not going to be maybe the most vocal and aggressive captain, but he leads by example. He leads by his pressing, he leads by his energy. He's not requiring other teammates of his to do something that he's not willing to do. You know, when he's telling Havertz and Trossard to close down, he's right next to them, leading the pressing of the opposition. So yes, you know, when it comes to Odegaard, I think he's a very, very important player, and I'm very happy that Arteta's found a way to get him more involved in terms of chance creation, not just getting on the ball and trying to, you know, squeeze through nice passes. He's actually affecting games very well now, so I'm very happy to see Odegaard back to his best. Then, guys, my next player that I'd like to give a big mention to is obviously Bukayo Saka. You know, there's been debates of whether he's world class and this, that, the other. The boy is just a great player. He's 22, guys. I don't need him to be world class. I don't even need people to rate Saka. If Saka continues on this form and we win the league and people still don't rate him, it's fine. He'll have a league medal, and, you know, that's the most important thing. But you cannot deny that this boy has star quality. You know, yes, the penalty, yes, people say it was a poor penalty, but if you really, really watch the penalty slowly, the reason that Trafford, the goalkeeper of Burnley, hesitates is because Saka takes a slight pause just before he kicks the ball. It's so slight that it actually causes the keeper to stop and then dive. I think if Saka doesn't take that stop, the keeper saves the penalty because the keeper is going the right way. But that little moment of hesitation from Saka stopped the keeper from committing already. And then he committed after Saka kicked, and it was a bit too late. And then, guys, look at his second goal. That's just trademark, in my opinion, Bukayo Saka. Getting on his left foot, shifting it onto his right, 1-2, bang, roof of the net. No keeper saving that. I don't care if it's Edison, Allison, unfortunately it was Trafford yesterday. No keeper is saving that. It's just, he with so much veracity and accuracy, and the height of the ball just makes it impossible for a keeper to save it unless it directly hits him on the hand. So, from Saka, guys, he's so consistent that the praise he's getting is actually, it sounds a bit monotonous and boring because he's actually been so consistent, and that's for me actually what makes him, in my opinion, a world-class player. Not because he's scoring great goals or has to get great numbers, is that he's consistently affecting the team, getting his goals, getting his assists, and putting performances together. People say that Saka's had a slow season, but I think it's something like 12 goals and 7 assists. He's 2 goals away from his best Premier League total, which was last season, and I definitely think he'll get that. Saka, we've got, 13 games left, 13, 14 games left. I think Saka can easily get another 8 goals and get through to 20 league goals this season. It's not out of the realms of impossibility. So, yeah, guys, I just think Bukayo Saka deserves special praise because, it's always this debate, Foden, or is he world class, or is it this one or that one, and the boy just keeps producing, and that's testament to him, and long may it continue. And then another special shout out, guys, that I'd like to give, a player that, look, maybe some people have had our doubts, but look, he's a young player, and we need to give players time, as always, Jakob Kiwior. Since the change in the back line where Arteta's got Ben White to invert and be more of your ball playing defender, and got Kiwior to almost line up in a back three with Gabriel Saliba and he's looked solid. There's been no question that Kiwior is a great defender. He's good at defending. When you ask him to do maybe the Zinchenko Ben White thing, he's not his natural game, and he might struggle, and that's what we were seeing, when he wasn't as good maybe against Luton and I forget the other home game we played when he was playing more the inverted role, and got subbed at halftime. But looking at him now, since he came on against Liverpool and he's just been asked to defend, he's defended brilliantly, guys. In all honesty, and I think, he's showing his strength, he's showing his composure, and even, he was involved in two of the goals we scored. He crossed the ball. Okay, it wasn't the greatest cross, which ended up at Havertz's feet and ends up with Trossard's goal. But he's getting forward as a bombarding fullback, but then his awareness for the throw-in to set up Havertz shows another, way that he's involved in the game, that mentally he's a player that's maybe not the best in terms of what you see, but he's playing with his mind, with his brain. He's switched on. And I have to give a big shout out to Kiwior, because it's not easy coming to the team when you have to try and either be as defensively solid as Tomiyasu or offensively good as Zinchenko. And I think shout out to Arteta as well for finding a way to play to his strengths while still adding and allowing us to still be a team that's on the front foot and not really hindering us. So those guys for me were my top 3 players from yesterday's performance. Obviously, I want to give a shout out to Havertz and Trossard for getting on the score sheet. I think we're seeing their link-up play and the way they're playing as well just bring another dimension to the team. Like I said, when you can go long for Havertz because if he occupies the 9 and plays, and Trossard plays off him, and Trossard around the 18-yard area is dangerous. He's got a great shot both left and right. But then also you have when Trossard is playing at the 9 and Havertz playing as the 8. Havertz making those runs from deep, breaking the lines. Odegaard found him a couple times yesterday. Unfortunately, he didn't do well with a couple, but him being in that space and him assisting the penalty for Trossard, that's what I'm wanting to see from both of them. Because there's been questions like, okay, is Trossard really a starter? Is Havertz really a starter? But over the past 3 games, I think we've seen how effective they both can be for this team. And look, Jesus is a great player, but I want it to be difficult for Jesus to get back into the team. I want Jesus to be that good that it must be undeniable that he needs to play. It shouldn't just be, oh, he's Jesus and he comes back. Because in my opinion, Trossard and Havertz are giving us something a bit different at this point of the season. In a month's time, I might call for Jesus because we might have a different question to answer. But like I said, guys, those are my stand-up players. Let me know who your top 3 were. Who was your man of the match? Is it somebody I left out that you thought secretly or quietly had a really good game? Yeah, let me know in the comment section. And then, yeah, like I said, let's hope our players can continue this vein of form, because, it's looking good from the entire team. So I've got no complaints.
Because that's the fucking standard.
Just want to end of the video speaking a bit more on Mikel Arteta's performance yesterday and over the past 5 games. Let's even go to over the past, let's say, 10 games. We had that blip where we lost 2 games, 3 games, all competitions, if you include the FA Cup, but 2 league games. A lot of people were doubting whether or not Arteta was the right guy for us. And I myself had a little bit of doubts, not whether he was the right man for us. It was just like I was doubting of whether or not we could stay in the title race. I just thought, you know what, are we going to be able to kick on? But I still had a bit of faith. You know, generally speaking, I've backed Arteta for most of his tenure. I'll be honest with you, when we were struggling and languishing 8 for 2 seasons, I did have my doubts. I did call for him to be sacked because at that point in time, if he had gotten sacked, I don't think he could have been upset because those were poor run of results. But since he turned that around, I've been Arteta in inverted commas, and supported the manager and most of his decisions. You know, I'm still one to say I back his decision to sign Havertz. You know, I back his decision to bring in players like Jorginho and Trossard, you know, because I understood them. So in terms of Arteta is generally someone that I will heap a lot of praise on, because I think a lot of people forget, guys, the Arsenal that we're seeing now that's competing with City and Liverpool are off the back of a manager never having managed in his life. This is Arteta's first ever job. Coming into a team like Arsenal, who's been without a league title for 20 years, so much turmoil within the fan base, you know, being trolled by our rivals year in, year out, you know, being titled as just a top 4 team, and then, you know, Butlers, if they want to call it that, last season, to generally being, in my opinion, the most exciting team, probably behind the likes of Man City. Liverpool have been good, but over the past 18 months, let's say 18 months, I think it's undeniable. I think you probably put Arsenal in the top 3 best teams. And that's down to Arteta and his coaching staff. And I think yesterday, and just this season, the way we've evolved from last season to this season just shows how good of a manager he is. And look, Arteta is not going to get everything right. We might not win the league, we might not win the Champions League, but guys, Arsenal were not competing for a very long time. This is the second season where we are within a shout of winning the title, and that's consecutive seasons. And you can't deny that has a lot to do with the manager. And whether you like him or not, I think we as fans need to understand that Arteta's had to do a lot to transform not just this playing squad, but the fan base, the club. He had to do so much. Bring us as fans back on board with supporting the team, for starters. Then having to put together a team that was competent to do certain things, you know, and get to certain levels. And again, guys, everyone says, oh, it's been 5 seasons. Fair enough, but it's not like we're competing against minnows and some random weak teams, guys. We're competing against Liverpool and City, who have been arguably the best Premier League teams we've ever seen. You know, this Jurgen Klopp Liverpool side has been outstanding, and Pep Guardiola's Man City, guys, is probably one of the greatest footballing teams ever. So for Arteta to be in a position where, you know, he's less experienced in terms of him as a manager and his team itself in terms of age as well as experience going for trophies, to be in the conversation with these 2 legendary managers and legendary teams is, for me, you have to give him lots of props. So look, I'm not saying that Arteta is the savior of Arsenal, but I'm very happy with the way Arteta has evolved himself. You know, I think, like I said earlier on in the video, he probably saw that, you know what, last season we ran out of steam. You know, we were good until we weren't. So let's maybe just switch up our approach. And, you know, one thing you've got to say about Arteta, because if you've watched the All or Nothing documentaries, that he'll always take the flak for things. You know, against Fulham, we were poor from a footballing perspective. And yes, you can say that coach sets the team up, but the players play. But Arteta was getting most of the criticism. But when the team starts to play well, I think Arteta's sometimes the last to get praise. You know, it's obviously when things go bad, you blame the manager. When things go well, you tend to say the players are playing well. When I think it's a bit of both for each situation. And like I said, guys, I think Arteta in the past 5 games has got it spot on. I think Palace at home, Wolves away, Nottingham Forest away. You probably told the boys, you know, guys, just get over the line these 2 games. Let's just get some sort of winning run or momentum going. But now, having beaten Liverpool and beating Liverpool, in my opinion, playing convincingly, thrashing West Ham, and then just putting Burnley to the sword yesterday, I think we're seeing another level that Arteta has taken this team to. And look, it's only been 5 games. Like I said, speak to me before the City game, which would be, 9 games in a row then. Then I could say to you, okay, guys, do I see where Arteta's taking the team in sense of, you know, what these 5 wins now just a flash in the pan? Or is it genuinely Arteta has now turned the switch and the players are hitting another level? So, yeah, that's like I say, guys. I just think Arteta deserves some special praise, especially over this period that he's had to manage with a couple of defeats we had in the league and the FA Cup, and then bringing the team back from Dubai in such a level, you know, to, like I said, 21 goals scored, 2 goals conceded. I think we've limited our opposition to the past 3 games to 3 shots on target, which is actually insane, considering we played Liverpool at home firstly and West Ham, who have beaten us twice this season. I think that's quite an outstanding turnaround. So big shout out to Mikel Arteta and his coaching staff. And yeah, guys, you know, more Dubai trips, like they're saying, Habibi. Okay guys, I just want to quickly go through my player ratings. I'm not going to even go into too much detail. I'm just going to purely give you my numbers. Let me know if you agree with these numbers, and maybe if you think I'm being a bit harsh or I've overrated someone, or you just maybe thought someone had like I said, maybe a more mixed performance, right? So in goal, David Raya, I gave a 7. Ben White, I gave an 8. Saliba and Gabriel, I both gave 7s. Kiviu, I gave an 8. Rice, I gave a 7. Kai Havertz, I gave an 8. Odegaard and Saka, I gave a 9 both, but Odegaard gets my man of the match. Trossard gets an 8 and Martinelli gets a 7, guys. I didn't really do the subs because I think they were all just, about a 6, Nketiah, Nelson and Cedric, and then Jorginho and Smith Rowe. I don't think their minutes were long enough to actually give them a fair score. So, yes guys, that brings me to the end of today's video. As always guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to be back. I will be having some more content dropping this week with the Porto review as well as a Porto review. And yes guys, let me know your predictions for the game in the Champions League on Wednesday. Your preferred lineup and how you feel about this run that we've been currently on, guys. So as always guys, from Shannon here at Golden Gooner TV, it's good to be a Gooner.